The weeks after the writing workshop stretched into something Allison hadn't felt in a long time: momentum. Life didn't suddenly bloom with joy, but it carried a rhythm that felt steadier, kinder. She wasn't drowning anymore. She was learning to float. Her mornings began with running shoes, the cold air biting at her cheeks as she jogged along the river. Afternoons belonged to work, emails, meetings, the endless hum of office life. Evenings were different now. Instead of collapsing on the couch, she often opened her notebook, scribbling fragments of stories, overheard conversations, or simply feelings she couldn't say out loud. She didn't write for David. She didn't write to prove anything. She wrote for herself. One evening after class, the instructor, Marianne, lingered as the students packed up. She approached Allison with a thoughtful smile. "You have a gift," Marianne said, gesturing to Allison's notebook. Allison blinked. "I don't know about that. I'm just trying." "Exactly," Marianne replied. "Writing isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up to the page, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts." The words stayed with her long after she left the community center. February brought snowstorms that blanketed the city in silence. Allison spent nights wrapped in blankets, sipping tea, reading books she'd picked up from the bookstore downtown. Sometimes she even found herself talking to the clerk with curly hair. Her name was Mia. Mia always seemed to remember what Allison had bought before. Back for more Heartbreak survival guides, she teased one evening. Allison laughed, surprising herself. "Something like that." "Don't worry," Mia said, sliding a new title across the counter. "Eventually, you'll graduate to poetry." It was a small interaction, but it warmed Allison more than she expected. The support group also became an anchor. The faces around the circle weren't strangers anymore. They were companions in survival. One night, Rachel shared that she had finally taken her daughter ice skating. "We fell about a dozen times," she admitted, laughing through tears. "But it was ours. Just ours." Evan announced he had started therapy. "I was scared out of my mind," he confessed, "but it feels like the first right step I've taken in months." Mark, as steady as ever, shared a memory of his late wife that made everyone laugh instead of cry. When Allison's turn came, she said, "I think I'm starting to understand that healing isn't about erasing. It's about adding. New routines, new people, new pieces of myself." The nod she received in return felt like affirmation. But progress wasn't linear. Some nights, grief returned like a thief, catching her off guard. A song on the radio. A couple holding hands on the subway. The faint smell of David's favorite cologne drifting from a stranger. One Friday evening, after a long week, Allison found herself sitting on the bathroom floor, crying quietly into a towel. The emptiness felt as sharp as it had months ago. But this time was different. Instead of letting the grief swallow her whole, she reached for her phone. Her fingers hovered, then she texted Claire, "Rough night. Can you call?" Within minutes, Claire's voice filled the silence. "I'm here, Al, breathe. Just breathe with me." They stayed on the phone for nearly an hour, not always talking, sometimes just sharing silence. And when Allison finally crawled into bed, she realized she wasn't alone, not really. March brought the first hints of spring. The ice on the Charles cracked and melted, the air softened, and patches of green began to appear between the lingering snow. One Saturday morning, Allison ran further than she ever had before, her body carrying her with surprising strength. When she stopped to rest, she realized she was smiling. Not because she had escaped her pain, but because she was alive inside it. Later that day, she sat at a cafe with her notebook open, writing without hesitation. Her pen moved quickly, almost desperately, as if her thoughts couldn't get out fast enough. She wrote about the seasons, about loss, about the strange beauty of survival. She wrote until her hand ached, and when she finally stopped, she felt lighter. Spring also brought invitations. Co-workers asked her to join them for trivia nights, for after-work drinks, for weekend brunches. At first, Allison hesitated. Her instinct was still to retreat. But she reminded herself, new pieces. So she said yes. She wasn't the loudest voice at the table, but she listened, laughed at jokes, even offered stories of her own. The more she stepped into the world, the less it felt like it was passing her by. By April, Allison realized something she hadn't dared to believe: she wanted more. Not more of David, not more of the past. More of herself. More of what life could still hold. During a support group meeting, she said it out loud for the first time. "I don't just want to survive anymore," she admitted. "I want to live." The words hung in the air, trembling but true. And as the circle nodded, Allison felt something shift inside her, a door creaking open, sunlight spilling through. She wasn't just healing. She was beginning.